Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Burly Bird Live. I'm your host, Jonathan Garrett, and I am genuinely thrilled to be joined by Jacob from Moravian Games here to talk about a little indie game called Feed the Scorchpot. Now, Jacob, I first of all just wanted to say huge shout out to you, man. I assume right now you're feeling massive delirium, given that you are
Well,
so
I
so
call
close to
I call
launch.
I call it the surreal state.
Yes, I know. You must be like some kind of just alternate reality right now. Just shout out to you, obviously giving up your time, being so willing to share your art, but also just to celebrate the fact that you're on the cusp of your launch. August 20th, Feed the Scorchpot is dropping onto Steam, having had quite the journey to get to where you are today. Not just the fact that it's obviously been very much a passion project for yourself and your development partner, but also just the fact that it has gone through two rounds of a Kickstarter campaign, both of which successful, but only one of which
Yeah,
actually came through to fruition. And I want to touch on that a little bit. We'll get more into that if folks listening aren't fully aware of the backstory here. But it's really important also that for us to celebrate the fact that, we want Burly Bird Media and everything we've done with Indie Former. Shout out to Josh and the team over there, to quite literally be shining a spotlight on titles like yours. And I just wanted to kick off tonight's stream just by saying congratulations on bringing this game to life. I think the only relevant question right now to kick off is that given how close we are to this finally being in people's hands and the journey you've been on to promote it, etc., when you look back on this process, can you point to something that was a genuine surprise, something that really blindsided you and made you realize, wow, from conception of the game right through to its now imminent release, is there something that genuinely surprised you about the process of making this thing?
well, so many things.
Yeah, I mean, and it can be, here's my bullet points, like I can imagine this could be quite a few to dig into.
I'm I'm thinking what was the number. Well, one happened quite recently, but
Right.
let's go back 1 year. So I was rushing to release the Steam page for the 1st of September last year. I wanted to join some festival that didn't pan out, but doesn't matter. So I rushed everything. I wanted to have the trailer ready. I was doing everything myself together with my wife. My wife is doing all the art, all the visuals, drawing everything by hand, and I took care of the rest. I was at the time I was doing game design, coding, sound design, music, everything. The trailer that was the
My
worst part.
goodness.
I
Yeah.
struggled so much with the trailer. So we got everything ready. The 1st of September, I launched the page and I messaged several media outlets like, okay, here's a game. Like every indie developer does this. Like try to have at least somebody look at their game and look, I'm making this. Show it, please. So I messaged like 2020 and I got one reply from Indie Former. And Josh was like, "Oh, that's so cool! Like, I will definitely show this, and I will gladly write about this. But I have something more in mind. Like, what would you say to open talks about being us publishing the game?" And that was on the second day. That was the 2nd of September, and I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, I can
I
imagine.
just,
That must have felt
I
like it
just
was sort of like your reality must have been shifting,
yeah.
right? Like that's so surreal. Just really quickly, just as a quick segue, I'm just noticing in chat, shout out to everyone that's dropping in on YouTube right now, but seeing a few people dropping in mentioning stuff about spreadsheets. Is this like an in-joke that I'm not
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
feel like please clue me into this because I feel so out of that conversation.
So it was a few months ago. There was some discussion about. So I put several secrets into the game. Like I just like funny little stuff. Like you click there, something happens, and eventually I put a whole mini game into the game. Like you do something and something happens. Like and that was I think in May, probably in May,
Hmm.
and I just mentioned it in the patch notes like there's a secret, that's all, and it took 2 weeks for someone to find it, and several people started finding it. I have no idea how it's really obscure in the game, and they wrote about it in the Discord, and so there's a secret, there's a big secret. Oh wow! And Clem Schmutz, the other part of the indie former, was there, and he was like, "What secret? Well, I mean, are you keeping secrets from us?" And I was like, "Dude, it was in the spreadsheet I gave you 2 weeks ago. You should have read that." And the Discord just went wild.
I love the idea that that sparked again just by people being like so evangelical about finding any kind of Easter egg or any kind of like hidden trinket that's then spawned an entire in joke for you guys, which
Yeah,
is just great.
and ever since then, each time Clem wrote anything, there was like just a spreadsheet emoji eventually, and just jokes about spreadsheets. And I even made a achievement in the game about it, like spreadsheet.
There's apparently, Clem's going to be taunted for the rest of his days, according to YouTube chat. So this is going to be the gift that keeps on giving to everyone but him. I think at this stage. So I
He
mean,
enjoys it.
we've obviously yeah, exactly, yeah. We've obviously touched upon it. So let's dig in because I've been following Indie Former for quite a while, and we've been working with them on a couple of other coverage for other games. And naturally, when Feed the Scorchpot came along as their first indie published title, very exciting to be able to follow that story.
Mhm.
We see the Kickstarter funded within hours. Really remarkable when you think that it's not they're not scaling up at the scale of some of the the Kickstarters that you see, which have like
Mhm.
an inbuilt communities of hundreds of thousands of people. Like you're launching a Kickstarter to those spaces which are already preaching to the converted, and they already have people there
Mhm.
ready and waiting to pledge. Right? Feed the Scorchpot, it was real from the ground up, building that community with Indie Former alongside them and everything they brought to the table. The thing gets funded, and it's obviously a huge success. They naturally shout about it. I heard about it through that. I found out about it going live when I saw the all the posts about it, and then obviously the success that came with.
Mhm.
And then the most surprising and most bizarre email to get in my inbox saying that we've just I've never forget the headline. We just cancelled a funded Kickstarter. So all the context around that, we know that's been publicly shared. Josh,
Mhm.
Clem, the team at Indie Former, very, very transparent with that stuff. It's kind of really what's defined them, really, is that they're, people are very aware of how they operate and what they do. And a lot of it was down to, being able to fulfill rewards. A lot of the rewards ended up being, such a huge portion of that money was then not going to be fed back into the game development and to achieve the things you wanted.
Mhm.
Cut to second Kickstarter, yet again a success, which I suppose in some ways for you, really encouraging to see that, people have bought into the concept and they're really excited. But did you have any like fear, any trepidation, any sort of concern that you know people would look at it and go, "Well, why bother? Why are we doing this for a second time when clearly the first one we believed in it and then they pulled the plug?" Was there any fear that it would somehow actually go against the game and you wouldn't end up funding it?
I don't think so. It was like we took our time, and it wasn't out of the blue sky.
Nice.
We talked about it, and I think we explained it quite well. And actually, I think I saw one negative comment about it. Everybody else was like, "Okay, that's great, yeah, that you're so open about it. That
Hmm.
it's really nice to see someone actually." Like be honest with us, because there are so many Kickstarters that get funded and
Yeah.
they never fulfill what they promised. So like the reception was great.
Nice.
I mean, it wasn't like I don't want to say that it wasn't that important. It was very important, but we weren't dependent on the Kickstarter to succeed to fund the game. Like the game was not done, but it was done back then. The demo was out, it was playable, and I knew that I was going to finish it regardless of the Kickstarter. So we were
Mm.
just gathering money to so we can work on it a little bit more, add some features, fund the new soundtrack, and do the voiceover. So extra stuff. So if it wouldn't pan out, well, not much would have happened. The game would
Sure.
happen anyway.
And I suppose in some ways quite reassuring for people in a sense that you use the Kickstarter to expand primarily rather than
Mhm.
having it be the make or break moment, right? Where like that it was not necessary for it to launch, but it was something that was going to I think, create the version, the best idealized version of what you wanted to make with this thing.
Hmm.
I also think in some ways that transparency would have been very reassuring for people. I think they actually, and I know I speak this as someone that followed your story throughout this, is that I was certainly from the outside looking in, it became very easy to believe in what you were making because there was such transparency and there was such
Hmm.
openness about the process. And you're right too. You've alluded to something that I think is a really interesting point, which is that a lot of Kickstarters can often fall into that trap of over promising, or they get that sort of feature creep, right? Where the stretch goals, they get some success, they smash through their initial goal, they start scrambling, or even if they've already planned them ahead of time, let's assume they've done that already. But then the new features and the stretch goals
Hmm.
start to ramp up, and suddenly the project is ballooning way beyond the scope of what you'd originally intended.
I'm very strict on scope creep. I There was a lot of ideas floating around during the Kickstarter. Oh, we should do this. We should promise this. I was like, no, no, I don't know if I can do that. I'm not going to promise anything that I'm not 100% sure that I can fulfill. So, and I keep the same philosophy when making the game. Like, I'm not going to add anything that I don't know that I can fulfill, and that pretty much this philosophy allowed me to make the game in 18 months. So
Well, no, I
it's
absolutely
working.
agree. I think your approach there, I think your philosophy on that is spot on. Local Stray Puppy on YouTube also saying, especially with Kickstarters that overpromise, that can be something that can be a real negative for a lot of people, especially if they were early backers, right? Like they've sort of hooked people in by saying, oh, if we do get to this funding goal, we'll hit this, this, and this, and this stretch goal. But that can often lead to inevitable disappointment if things are perhaps pitched beyond the scope of what they can deliver. I just think it's really important to have restraint, and you guys have shown that with this. But also, I think it's relative to what you've produced, because there is, you mentioned it earlier. You've had to be a bit of a jack of all trades. You've had to do everything, right? Across multiple disciplines. Obviously, your partner did all the artwork for the game, right? All hand
Mhm.
drawn, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's in and of itself, that's a excuse me, that's an absolutely monstrous task just for that one individual, let alone the fact that you're having to coordinate all of that and creatively lead the project. So very easy, I think, for when it's such a passion project for it to creep up and for it to,
Yeah,
become
you
bigger
mentioned
than you think.
coordination. Like, that's one thing I'm really glad that it's just me and my wife doing it, because
Yeah,
it's easy to coordinate. Like,
for sure. Yeah,
now when I even we just added the new soundtrack into the game, and we had to coordinate with our composer. It's a great guy, but it just takes time.
of
And
course.
suddenly it was hard. Like, I imagined that the game would be done by now, like done on Steam, end of story. And now I had to work around the soundtrack. Our composer went on holiday, and and suddenly, okay, I'm uploading the final build 2 days before the release. So
Oh my god. That I'm not a developer. That aged me just then, like that, the idea of you having to do that so close to the line, when I suppose there's all the marketing material, all the momentum you've built up towards both the launch trailer last week and your release this week on the 20th. Yeah, I can imagine that was quite a sweaty moment for you guys.
well, I I had fail safes. Like, I was okay, if this doesn't pan out, we'll do it other way. Like, I had I had my ways around it if necessary.
Patch it in if I suppose later on. You had to develop the original soundtrack you had in the beta
Mhm.
version, but that's still usable in game, isn't it? I believe like the
Yeah, yeah,
you can
you can
actually
go
enable that
into
as a
options and
yeah.
switch.
It's great. I saw that in one of your Steam updates saying about how, having listened to the beta feedback, that actually people wanted to have the, just for the sake of having that original experience. I just think is really, really cool. So I know that given everything we've alluded to, a successful Kickstarter, a proof of concept that was obviously shown through the demo and your previous coverage. Um, what you have now is your 1.0, is your launch. Um,
Yep.
I always find it really tricky when, and I've seen this before in other places where they try to interview developers on the cusp of a game's release, and they'll ask them, "Well, what's next then? What's the next game? Or even worse, what DLC are you bringing to the game?" Right? So I always try to avoid. I really like to avoid interview cliches because I it makes me eye roll when I watch them, and if I'm the one asking the question, then it's double eye roll, right? So I go the other way. I'd want to go alternate universe. If you were to go right back to the beginning, to the conceptual phase of Feed the Scorchpot. This is because obviously you guys, this was an existing game you guys had created as like a sort of physical board game style thing, right? Or like you'd sketched out yourselves physically, right?
No, not really. It's inspired by board games. We did actual board game before. We published it here in Czech Republic.
Oh, so
So
I've
we
misread that. Apologies. So that's something you've done not of this, but like a physical board game
yeah, it was a
separately.
different game. We
Sure.
did it, and back then we were thinking, okay, it was fun, and we got some money out of it. Maybe we can do this for a living. But no, we can't make board games for a living. And that's eventually when I got the idea to try make a video game. So that's how that initially started. And so when I was making the very initial idea for Feed the Scorchpot was, I played Balatro. I enjoyed it quite a lot, and I
Mhm.
was thinking, oh, this is great. But it's poker. I don't like poker. Can I make this better? Can I make this out of something that I actually enjoy? And so I started thinking about board games and how could I implement the same philosophy that was applied in Balatro to something else, and that's how
Sure.
it came to be.
Okay, so straight away you've just proved my point there, which is that's an infinitely more interesting answer, right? So, but if you were to kind of like go to the kind of questions that you often get, those cliche questions, right? But if you go back down to the start, having obviously this is all benefit of hindsight, you've been through the process of making the game. Are there things that you've encountered along the way? You mentioned Balatro. Are there other games that you've seen either announced or played throughout the course of development on Feed the Scorchpot? Which is if you could have taken it then back to the beginning and gone, oh, that would have been a great influence or a great inspiration for what Feed the Scorchpot could become. This alternate version of this game that could exist.
I don't think so. I think I did some. I pretty much stuck to the original idea. I did. There were some changes along the way, but nothing really major.
Interesting.
No,
Because
nothing
that's
really comes to mind.
because that in itself is also interesting because the idea that you've kind of stuck to your guns, right? Like this has been something that you have been really, really convinced of and convicted of in your design and what you wanted to make. That's also really interesting to know, I think, is that this is this is the version that you wanted to create, right? And this is
Well,
the
I had other problems like often when I worked for it for 2 months, I had to take a break, and my mind started to wander. I came up with, okay, this would be such a cool project. Like I want to make this strategy or this colony sim or this idle thing, and I had to suppress all of that because
Oh, so,
I
okay, so it's actually the other problem, which is that like
yeah
other completely
yeah.
different concepts were vying for your headspace. Okay, cool. Well, see, then again, that's why I think it's so interesting to indulge that line of thinking because it it shows that there was clearly something here that batted away those other attempts at distracting you, right? That things that could have
I
drawn you
hate
to other projects.
I hate unfinished projects, so I finish one, the first one, and then I move back to another one.
No, I love it. Well, let's dig in. Let's show the folks what you guys have are now on the cusp of launching. So this is again. I'm gonna ask the question. Obviously, you mentioned about the actual board itself. Is all this UI stuff and the sketches here? Is that also produced by your partner as well?
Yeah, everything, but I don't see the screen, so I assume it's just the game. But
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Um, available now on Twitch and YouTube. But
okay,
yeah,
I'll just guess.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. So, just yeah, looking at the main menu here and just seeing the
Mhm.
uh, just the artwork is so crisp. We're playing in 1440p, you know, max settings, and just showing how crisp this artwork is, which is lovely. Um, we're going to just go from the very beginning. I'm going to do just the basic difficulty. I've reset the game just to show it from the start. Helpful if the game had sound. I think that'd be a good place to start. Just realized we're not showing off that lovely soundtrack, which we need to make sure we do. There we go. Perfect. Continuing from there. So, there's multiple stages as you work through. You roll dice, that gives you access to give resources to be able to feed your slightly sarcastic dragon. Really appreciate the voice acting, by the way, in the tutorial. That was a lovely touch. Really, really nice to see that. And his hunger every year grows more challenging, so you have to be able to farm more resources, create different recipes. There's certain modifiers, different buildings you can upgrade that increase what you can produce. And ultimately, the goal is to make your way through a full 20-year cycle. And then I was interested actually seeing in the full release all the different dragons and the different modifiers that come with that. Is a lot of that, was that sort of tied to longevity? Was that kind of you wanting to make sure that there was always something for players to come back to?
So different dragons, that was the concept that evolved over time. That was something that I didn't plan from the start. Like, I knew there was going to be the basic gameplay, and you're going to progress through difficulties. And I originally imagined that each dragon is going to be one difficulty. So from 1 to 10 dragons, and there's going to be Empress at the very end, like that you have to satisfy. But it was, I think, quite early during the alpha testing when we realized that it's just not enough. Like, I wanted to have different islands back then that would switch the rules, maybe starting conditions and something like that. But I eventually realized that it's kind of a shame. Like, we are going to draw 10 dragons, and some of them are never going to get played, because some people are going to play at the lowest difficulty.
Sure.
Some people are going to play at the highest difficulty, but those in the middle, like, you see them once maybe. So I started thinking, okay, how can I mix this up? And at that time we had, I think, 3 dragons, the Baron, Hermit, also Count and Duchess. Yeah, so 4 dragons. And Daniela, my wife, she drew them very distinctively. Like, they had so much personality, and they just inspired me. Okay, if they have personality, let's actually give them personality in game and try to tie the rules into how they behave. And so that's how that came to be.
No, absolutely. I think that's such a cool concept too, is that you see the visuals of the dragons tied to their different requirements and the escalating difficulty. I love that Celtic Fury on YouTube saying, the more dragons, the better, which is absolutely right. Not going to argue with that. I'm concerned that my early season here is not going well, and that I love the fact you could also, like, you mouse over his head and he sort of lifts it up as if you're like, I feel like that would also, you know, that Can You Pet the Dog, that Twitter account? It's almost, I think Feed the Scorchpot would almost count with that, is you can kind of scrumble him under his chin, which is great.
There's achievement for that.
That's great, absolutely. He's great, he loves it. So, and also that's the other thing too, is that one thing I feel like in your tutorial that was really effective is that the UI is gradually introduced on the screen, so you don't sort of get overwhelmed. When you were testing the game, did you find any pinch points, like any moments where people went, oh, I don't know how to progress here, or I don't know how to go any further?
So many times. Like, the tutorial, if you ask me what was the hardest part to make about the game, it was the tutorial. Like,
interesting.
The game was designed about like, every run is seeded. Like, you start the game, and the buildings, the tiles, dice rolls, everything is based on the seed. So it's random. Like, you can replicate it when you enter the same seed, but it's random. And then I had to make tutorial where nothing is random. I had to make sure that every dice roll is applicable to the tutorial, that everything happens as it should. And that was so hard. Like, I had to bend so many rules, create so many exceptions for everything, and then I made it, and so many people did not understand it, because I think I probably just suck at explaining stuff. So I was very lucky that Josh stepped in at that point. I gladly offloaded this to him, so he rewrote the entire script for the tutorial.
Oh, no way.
Yep. And that helped a lot. Josh went to a convention where he watched people play the game live. I did the same. It was just a regional gathering, but I also watched several people play it live, and I saw that, oh, okay, people don't get what I'm trying to explain here. I need to remake this. So we sat down, worked on the script, and made the whole tutorial once again. And that's when we introduced the elements of the board appearing one by one that wasn't originally there, and it was much more convoluted.
I didn't realize that he'd been so involved in that side of it. Because,
Yeah,
I mean, the script is really tightly written. It works really well. Was the voice acting, was that a stretch goal of the Kickstarter, or was that something that was always? Oh, it's a stretch goal rather than a.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great choice to have that in there. It really brings that tutorial to life. You're immediately.
I'd love to have all of the game voice acted, but no budget for that, at least yet.
I was gonna say that's quite an ask, isn't it? But yeah, no, just very. It gives it like an immediately like interesting flavor to it in a sense. Like you're immediately connected to it, because the sort of the slightly sinister, sarcastic dragon. It really you instantly go, okay, I know what this is. I get this now, and that's something I think is really important, especially when you're weighing into a space that's very competitive. A lot of people are, there are more games being released than ever, so you are having to find those things that differentiate and really help you stand out.
But that was always true. Nothing changed yet. Only more people in there, but also bigger audience, I think.
I was just going to say, yeah, you're playing to more people, absolutely, but also just the you're having to vie for attention in a space where there's so many more things pulling other people's attention than there was before. It's busier. It's more complex in terms of the space you're wading into. So it's a tricky one. Oh, that was a terrible dice roll. Okay, that'll do. So for folks watching, you can see that there's a really nice sort of natural progression to it, and you see like the multiplier here, the flavor multiplier, and the essence as well. All of these elements then combine up to make your total, and if you meet the hunger score, then your delightful dragon overlord will be satiated, and you can move on to the next year. I've got my dock down now as well, so hopefully that's going to be a little bit more functional. Oh no! I was like 10 points off.
There are special banter when you get almost to the point, then he can say some stuff like, you almost had me.
Oh, that's great.
Just a nibble more.
Yes, just so close. Well, that, folks, is Feed the Scorchpot. Thank you so much for tuning in, checking out the game. And also, Jacob, thank you so much for your time as well. Really appreciate you jumping on tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Jacob, where can people find you?
Hopefully they don't.
Maybe not literally, but online. Where can they find you?
Yeah, best way to talk about the game is on our Discord. Like, lovely. We have amazing community there. It really kept the game going through the testing phase. Like, we had so many great people throwing ideas around, and it's really pleasure to talk to everyone there.
Oh, amazing. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have enjoyed us hanging out for this jolly stream here at Burly Bird Live, you can find us on all of the things at Burly Bird Media. That is Facebook, Instagram, Threads, as well as obviously our YouTube and Twitch channels, where we are regularly streaming every Saturday. We've got our System Link podcast, but also these Burly Bird live streams where we get to pick the brains of the creatives that are creating delightful projects like this. So thank you, folks, for tuning in, and we will see you next time.